Welcome to The Secret Witch Show, the podcast providing a safe and alchemical altar space of conversations which help powerful women escape a half-hearted, spiritless society and rediscover the freedom of living a wildly magical life. Every other week, we explore how to cast aside the wounds of shame, guilt, and fear connected with fully being yourself, so you can grant yourself permission to stop hiding, ground soulfully back into your body, illuminate your whole soul desires, tend your soul, rediscover and reclaim your powerful gifts, express your magic, and manifest your wildest alchemy. There's no better place to become who your heart longs to be. This is where we will guide you into liberation. I'm your host, Nicole Barton, and I'm so excited to dive in. Welcome, aspiring feminine healing leaders. Oh my goodness, have we a magical episode for you today? Honestly, I would love to hear what you take away from it. In the meantime, I have spent the last few weeks doing some research with 20 amazing, powerful and magical women, hearing their visions, hopes, dreams, aspirations and their blocks so that I can super align our archetypal apothecary path for your needs and desires. And it has really filled my heart hearing all of their stories. And interestingly, they found the space holding mutually beneficial. One woman felt that it had been more serving to her than it had to me, which was gorgeous. So I have completed the first round on this. There may be some more opportunities opening. So if you would like to be involved, jump on our social media and DM me to let me know. You can do that on Instagram at I am Nicole Barton. I've also got at Archetypal Apothecary on Instagram as well now too. And I've also birthed our TikTok account at Team Secret Witch. And I'm loving creating reels. So if you're on there, follow us for some potent, inspiring and transformational content all around reclaiming your feminine power and magic. On The Secret Witch Show today, I explore how to get clarity and focus on your authentic spiritual gifts, illuminating why our tools are not our true gifts, and discussing the role of the feminine and masculine in the process of creating clarity in your transition into being a healing leader. I dive into my belief that magical women are all born with a legacy to live out and how we can truly discover what that is and why it's not through affirmations. In this episode, I also explore my own journey of discovering my unique gifts and how I've come to understand that people themselves are the real medicine. I believe we are all walking around unconsciously serving our gifts, and the real work is to consciously harness them so they can be served from love, not fear. Welcome to all my feminine healing leaders, and welcome to episode 52, how to get clarity on your true soul gift. I am so excited about this episode, and I'm going to dive in firstly to a bit about the why I do what I do. And it's because it's important to know the story. And it's really the work that I do is to reconnect powerful, aspiring feminine healing leaders to their gifts. That is what I'm here for. So this episode is like the ultimate episode, so that they can then birth their gifts into the world in a way that's really serving to the collective and creates an aligned, thriving business. So this episode is kind of central to the work that I do, and powerful women have often been conditioned into the masculine lens of the world. So they either feel that they have to hustle, which often has them burning out, or when they've burned out, they often then reject the hustle and end up not achieving what they really are here to create, certainly not living out the gifts that they were born for. And the why of this, the reason why this is so alive for me is that this was my own journey. So it's a journey that is so dear to my heart. And a few years back, although I had all the tools for healing, and I was literally trained in all the healing tools, I still felt like I had no idea what my true spiritual gift was. Or I might have thought that it was in the tools, but it still didn't feel like I was actualizing my deepest gift, if that makes sense. And that's what I now call, so I think the language that my women tend to use is like their spiritual gift, but is what I would call now my soul gift, their soul gift. And this was a few years back now, but it took a real descent from what I now call woo light, which isn't intrinsically light. So I know this can be triggering for women to hear, like all the work that they've been doing is me calling it woo light. It's not intrinsically woo light, it's just that it's kind of like magical. It's been interacted with in a very light way up until the point that they get here. And this work that I do takes women into the depths of their souls, and that's very much the journey that I was on. I went into this real descent into the depths of my soul, into the true feminine, to fully discover what my gifts were. And so that's what I mean when I'm talking about the difference between spiritual gifts and soul gifts. What most women want when they come to me is not really to discover more spiritual tools. They're often already spiritual. They may have trained in things like Reiki, but they want to live from alignment. They want to live from truth. And their ultimate goal is to be their authentic selves and be able to express that into the world. Know what that is, first and foremost, and then express that into the world. And that really is the path of reconnecting to our souls, and our souls are in our bodies. So that's why I call it a descent. It's like the descent back from what's universal into what's personal, into our bodies. And that's what often my women are unconsciously longing for. They won't realise that. So if that's you likely won't know that's what your body's longing for. You'll just be feeling some sort of call back to your authenticity, to your full expression. And really, those are signs that your soul is calling you home. Because your spiritual journey will likely have taken you off to a place where your power is kind of given away to the universe. You might be sitting there wishing that clients would just be sent to you, or you're feeling that you have to be grateful for everything and you fear not being grateful. Those are some of the ways that might show up. And soul descent is really, a lot of my women are into manifestation. Soul descent is kind of manifestation step 2, manifestation from deep soul alignment. It's like the reconnection to who you really are and the loving of that, so that you can fully express it into the world as medicine, as the gift that you came here to be. So as I said before my descent, I had all the tools. And my gifts weren't in that. They may well form part of what I share into the world now, but that isn't my gift. And I was reading a book yesterday, actually, by I think it's Russell Brunson, which essentially summed up what I know to be true. And I read what he shared and was like, oh yes, this is exactly what I'm speaking to in my movement, in my modality. And he said something along the lines of, the tools are just tools. It's creating a movement with your story that is what changes people. And it resonated so deeply because it's one of the core principles of my work. And I know the reason for why this is, which I'll speak more to in a little while. But really, the first lesson that I want to share with you is that your gifts are not going to be found in your spiritual healing tools. That's not to say that your tools aren't part of the path that you will guide your people into as a healing leader, but your gifts are not the tools. And I know that ironically, that probably has you starting the episode feeling even less clear on your gifts. So bear with me. But yeah, my story is, I'm going to share a little bit about my own journey. My story is that I believe all magical ones are born with a legacy to leave. And it's them themselves that are the gifts that the world needs. And at some point along the path, we have been initiated into seeing our gifts. We may or may not have already been through that. It's likely you will if you've ended up at my door. But yeah, it's often in ways that we don't expect and that very rarely feel like gifts. These are the kind of woundings that we've experienced through life. And my first memory of my own initiation, probably my earliest, well, actually maybe not my earliest, but one of the earliest memories, of my wounding was age 10, when in fact I was actually so burned out that I couldn't walk and I missed a year of school. And it feels like a tender young age to receive an initiation like that. But a part of me, I've come to see over the past decade, that a part of me chose that experience, that darkness, so that I could find the light. This is something that often my women are kind of aware of, that there's kind of like these portals that mean something. And I really see that now it was something I chose into, or my soul chose into, let's say, not me consciously, but my soul had an agreement into that particular experience so that I could discover the gold in the darkness and go on to serve the collective as a remedy for people who have the same sort of wounding. And at the time, the magical art and science of homeopathic remedies helped me to heal. So I had a homeopath. I did a lot of work with different remedies, taking a lot of different remedies, let's say, and healed a lot of layers of wounding, of blocks, you could say, that I'd already accumulated at age 10 through so many of my early childhood traumas. And then for a little while, I went back to not really being in the magic, being more in the mundane. And 14 years later, at around age 24, the same thing happened. I was in a corporate job, I burned out, and yeah, again, really just ended up back in the exact same place that I'd been at age 10. And it was at that point that I made a devotion, which at the time was completely unconscious. But later, when this was revealed to me through my work with the feminine, and I kind of pieced together the magical puzzle, it moved me to tears, because I realised that I had declared that if homeopathy healed me again, I'll devote my life to it. And it makes me emotional thinking about it, because unconsciously I was exactly on my medicine, hitting up against my medicine. And yeah, it gives me shivers when I think about it, because little did I know that this was exactly what would happen, that I'd go on to train in the remedies, and later discover through my work with the feminine that homeopathic remedies were my natural language, and then eventually they would underpin the lineage of my archetypal apothecary modality. And that's where I'm at today. So just to go into a little bit more detail on that, I don't serve homeopathic remedies in the traditional sense anymore, because I wasn't here to do that. I was put here with gifts to innovate homeopathy and bring it to the mainstream. So I'm not here to serve its traditional pills, though I still value them personally. Instead, my modality is built on the ancient legs of several healing philosophies. And the remedies themselves, the remedy personalities that I worked with in that time in my path with homeopathy have become central to my modality as potent archetypal remedies. And from that, I've come to develop a modern mystery school that serves remedies in a really unique way as energetic transmissions that awaken women to their power and magic, and of course, help them discover their gifts and bring them into a thriving, aligned business. So the spirits of these remedies can be worked with, as I said, for deep healing of blocks, the reclamation of feminine power and magic, getting clarity on your gifts, creating your soul business for them. More details on that another time. That's kind of not the point of this episode. Is the point of me sharing this is about the story of it. And one thing just to say is that it has been known that even just having a conversation with me can have you dosed with activating medicine of truth. So it's a little disclaimer for when you're listening to the podcast. If I am dosing a remedy through what I'm saying, which of course I always am, there is often activating medicine in that for my women, which I've had to learn to navigate. And the remedies really channel through me in a very unique way, which was never something I was conscious of. But they often will transmit through conversation. As I say, it's a gift that I've learned over the years to kind of consciously harness so that I can pass that gift on to others who want to learn the modality too. But the one thing that I have really seen that ties back to what I was saying earlier with the quote from Russell Brunson is that through all of this, I've seen that people are the medicine. Essentially, what I mean by that is we are all energetic archetypal remedies. If you imagine like little people walking around, they're all individual archetypal remedies walking around, activating each other into different energetic states. So your energy will activate other people. And that is happening all of the time. It's why people get triggered. And yet, the rest of the world does not see it this way yet. And this is the movement that I am here to lead. The movement that people need to know that they are medicine. There's actually a basic law that underpins the homeopathic philosophy that sums up how this works. So it's this kind of like a scientific principle, a law of the universe, if you like. And it's the law of similars. It's called similia similibus. And it means like cures like. And what that means is that whatever your medicine is will cure those who are very similar to you. And therefore those who have the same wounds as you. And the impact of this is that we can either be serving out, and this will happen anyway, regardless of whether you claim your gifts, like unconsciously, you'll still be serving that medicine. So we can either, so you're already your gift, you're already being your gift. It's just that largely on the whole, our gifts are being expressed into the world from trigger. So as I was saying, the impact of this is we can either unconsciously serve the unhealed expression of our gift, or we can do the work to see all the wounding that surrounds that gift and serve the healed expression of our medicine. So as long as you are connected to the purity of the truth of your soul's essence, that is your own gold, so long as you've healed your wounding, so long as you've healed the blocks in the way of you transmitting that remedy, you will be transmitting your own unique remedy, and this will heal those who are similar to you. And the work that I do is helping women transmit that cleanly. So if you can transmit it cleanly enough, and by clean I mean if you can clean your own wounds out of the way of your gifts, you'll be serving the medicine that you were born here to serve. And the law of similars also means that as long as your remedy is powerful and clear enough, those who have a similar wound to the one that you have experienced and healed will be attracted to you to heal it. Because like cures like literally means that your dream clients are going to be magnetized to you. And the bigger implication of that is what I was saying earlier, and this means that it is you that is medicine. It is not your tools, but it's your archetypal story. An archetype is essentially a story, a lens, a mirror for people. So it's you, your archetypal story about your wound, your authentic truth. This is what truly heals. This is your gift. It's a story of how you have transformed your deepest wound into gold. And when we think of archetypes, we typically think of archetypal myths. So things like the witch herself is an archetypal story. She's kind of like this mythical creature. And from working with the witch, we can reclaim our power, we can reclaim our magic, which is why the witch is kind of baked into the work that I do. But really, we're all creating our own myth. We're all living out our own myth. And it's the myth, it's the archetype, it's the story that is the healing, that is the gift. It's not your tools. And I really had no idea, age 10, that my deepest wound would become my greatest gift. That would become my archetypal story. It would become an archetypal apothecary healing modality. I had no idea. That I had no idea that what healed me would truly, in every way, become my medicine for others, become my gift. I just had a sense throughout my life that I was here for something more, that I was here to leave a legacy. And the same is true for you. So I share that with you because this is the true story of how I discovered my gifts. And it really is about the medicine that you are born here to be. So it's about you, it's about the wounds you've journeyed with. And that is my why. That is why I have created Archetypal Apothecary to guide women into deep clarity around their gifts, because there is this common misunderstanding. And it's come from our cultural understandings, but it's a misunderstanding that the tools outside of you, the external, are the gifts. That is really just outsourcing your deeper purpose, because it is you that is the medicine. Well, there's my mini rant out the way. Like that's my passion for you to know. So my first question for you, if you're wanting to get clarity on your gifts, is what is your story? What is the thread of the wound, the core wound that has run through your life? There will be one particular wound that is the deepest, and that is really the wound that you're here to serve, is what I've seen. As I've kind of journeyed with this with many, many different women, that's the one thing that I've seen, is that our deepest wound is our gift. And that is a super powerful inquiry to journey with. So I invite you into that, and with the conscious knowing that that may not be immediately available for you to see, depending on how much you've healed your wounds. And it really is a case that we have to go into healing our wounds in order to be able to dose and serve our gift. So that's the first piece of wisdom for you, the first piece of inquiry. Inquiry is such an important part of that woo deep, let's call it, that I guide women into in this path. So let's talk a little bit more about that, because the magical path to get clarity is very much around this way of understanding ourselves, and it requires us to really heal our own wounds. That is really needed for us to be able to actually serve our soul gift into the world, the one wound that we were born here to experience, and therefore to heal, dose, serve out into the world. We need to be serving that out into the world. And as I said, we're already serving it. If we are operating from wounding, even if we're operating from wounding and we're getting triggered left, right and centre from that wounding, we're still interacting with that wounding and dosing, serving it out into the world by conversations that we have about our triggers. We might be responding from the wounding. That is serving that medicine into the world from fear. And the aim for you to reclaim your soul gift, you want to be serving that medicine into the world through love. So if we heal our wounds and we are able to serve them as the gifts that we've reclaimed, as we heal them, we'll reclaim the gold. If we reclaim that gold and serve the gold out into the world, that is what has us magnetize the women or whoever it is that we're calling in to be served by our gifts. That's how we really serve the collective, is by harnessing our gifts from love. So we need to heal our wounds first and foremost. And one of the things that I've also seen, which is why my particular modality serves women into the feminine and their magic and power, is that this particular place, so feminine, magic and power, and it's again very much where my own woundings were and where I've done a lot of work to reclaim the gold expression of the feminine magic and power that I am. Wounds around the feminine magic and power will also stop you having clarity around your gifts and stop you focusing on your vision. So this is one particular area that is really, really important. If you do truly want to know, and get clarity on your gifts, there's going to need to be a reclamation of your feminine magic and power. And I'll explore a little bit more around why that is. One of the main things that I see as well is that women arriving in this path, very similar to the way I was when I arrived in the path, tend to favour logic. So one of the ways that stops us seeing fully what our gifts are, because this lens that I'm teaching you now is very much a magical lens. One of the things that stops us from being in the magical lens is that our culture has kind of had us conditioned into the masculine way of being. So women arriving at this path tend to favour logic. And this is why when we're coming from that place, we arrive at Island A in this path, we're favouring logic, we're conditioning the masculine. And it's really important to journey to Island B, which is that feminine reclamation of magic and power. The first thing my women always want to know is the how. And that's why often women also will have had extensive business careers. They'll have explored, or at least explored, all the business courses before they arrive at my door. They have this penchant for logic. And at the same time, they also know that they aren't made for the logical masculine world, because it has them in burnout. So their feminine bodies will let them know that logical linear way of being, the masculine way of being, you could call it, is not aligned, and they'll burn out. And it's kind of at this point they realise they're here for more magic. They're here with healing gifts. It's exactly the same as my journey. You know, I had an MBA, I had a career in brand management. I'd kind of like pushed magic aside, and it wasn't until I burned out that was like, again, my second initiation into like this, there's something more magical here for you, because magical ones are born here for magic. So it's likely my women were constitutionally, when they were born constitutionally magical. The remedy state that I work with that is a remedy called phosphorus. They're deeply sensitive, they're open, they have these spiritual gifts, they have this interest in spirituality, they're powerful, they're fiery. That tends to be how my magical ones were born, and yet they go into this linear world and they end up suppressing all of that. And that's because they're kind of immersed in the masculine world, and they're really here for the feminine. And the truth is that when we're in that preference for linear logic, which we've been conditioned into, it means that we're not working with the feminine mysteries. The feminine mystery by its very nature is mysterious. It's full of cycles, it's full of spirals, it isn't linear. And it's really the feminine that will help you to create clarity around your gifts. You can sit and think about it all you like. You're not going to arrive at the true deep soul purpose that you're here for. Because the way that we get there is by being open to the feminine revealing things to us, to magic revealing things to us. That's not done by you sitting down and figuring things out. So as you're journeying with this, keep this in mind, because this process is about working with feminine magic. So that includes things like going into the wild, asking for more guidance from spirit, from your guides, asking your dream guides at night time to reveal more to you. And if you're working with me in this path, the main thing that you'll be doing is learning to work with archetypal remedies intentionally to reveal more. And I found that it's likely that it won't be revealed if you have blocks around your feminine. So yeah, one of the biggest things is the relationship that the feminine has with the masculine. And yet, whilst we are, so just before I go there actually, like the openness, it's the openness to being in your feminine that will start that. It's the openness to opening your heart to really, truly, deeply working with the feminine. And you may already feel that you've worked with the feminine to some degree. Some of my women do feel that. And yeah, often it can be almost like a shadow feminine, like rejection of the masculine. So I'm going to speak a little bit about that as well. So whilst we are all in feminine, all about feminine embodiment in this path and feminine power, one of the things that I really see is important to know is that this does not mean a total rejection of the masculine. One of the things that I see really commonly in other feminine initiation, feminine embodiment paths is that will mean a rebellion against the masculine. That is not what I teach here in this path, because if we are rebelling against the masculine, we are not available to receive its gifts. And what I mean by that is we can be supported by linear. You should see the systems and structures in my business that support me. You'd be shocked as a feminine healing leader. You'd be shocked at the systems and structures that I have in my business. I remember one woman actually coming to work for me once and being like, yeah, I'm here for feminine flow, and being really like so resistant to the fact that we had systems and structures that she just couldn't work in that way. And that is the feminine shadow that we often hit up against. So because, and it's completely innocent, completely understandable, completely loved, but it's one of the shadows, one of the fears that I see in my women who have really burnt out because they've been so in the masculine when they're really feminine essence beings. Like if you are a feminine essence being, you are not built to be working in a masculine way, but you can be supported by systems and structures. And there's really a lot of integration that we have to do around owning our feminine power and magic, which does not mean rebelling against the masculine. It's like this, I hear a lot of witches talking about, you know, fuck the patriarchy and all of that sort of thing. And it really is, that's a rebellion against the masculine. As long as you're rebelling against the masculine, you're not opening to receive the masculine's gifts. And the masculine wants to provide. We are here to receive as feminine essence beings. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the best place to start with that is The Queen's Code by Alison Armstrong. Alison was on the show a little while back. That was one of the most powerful books that I could possibly read about the masculine and feminine. And I had dived into the masculine and feminine, yin and yang, all that stuff from a woo light perspective myself many years ago, you know, for a decade, before I came to read The Queen's Code. And The Queen's Code was revolutionary. So I really recommend The Queen's Code as a book. If you are kind of, if you're feeling that kind of rebellion, like resistance to the masculine. The reason why this is so important and part of the work that I teach is the more that we rebel against the masculine and the patriarchy, the less we will receive its provisions. And the masculine as an energy can feel quite penetrative. If you think about the masculine and feminine and their bodies and how they're built and the fact that we receive penetration, this makes total sense. So if you're hitting up against an energy that feels penetrative, it's usually a good sign that you're hitting up against a masculine energy. One of the great examples that I use is money. Money can often feel quite penetrative to my women. So things like money, clarity, focus, systems, anything that feels penetrative to you when you're in that kind of state of like, oh my God, I'm so burnt out, please just leave me alone. You want to hide in your bed and you're like covering your face with your hands. This is a good sign that there's this kind of resistance to masculine penetration. And as we learn to embody our feminine, we actually learn to receive all of the gifts of the masculine in the way that we're built to, in the way that we're meant to. So basically, all the things that you're longing to create in your spiritual business are going to be magnetized to you, and you're able to receive them if you do the work to truly embody your feminine, because we are built to receive as women. We are innately built to receive. If you just look at our bodies, that is, you know, we are built to take in, to receive. But because of trauma, because of wounding, because of the cultural stuff that we've grown up around, we often push that away. And again, it's helpful to remember that is completely innocent. It's just how we've been conditioned. It's what we've learned. This stuff that I'm teaching is quite new. And you're probably like, how has this got anything to do with me finding clarity on my soul gift? But, you know, if you think about clarity is quite a masculine trait. So it's about us opening to receive clarity as a feminine essence being. And yeah, so there's also often wounding around feminine expression that can come up as well when we actually begin to get clarity around our gifts. And all of this wounding can stop us even from accessing our powerful vision or our knowing of our gifts. So other ways that show up is wounding around feminine power will also have women fear their success. If we're kind of like fearing that masculine, which is again typically what people associate with the word success, if we fear the masculine, it's going to have us fearing our power, because we're like, oh, we open to receiving what we want to receive, which is usually some big vision. And then we're like, oh my goodness, but then I'm going to burn out. So this one of the biggest fears is like, if I'm successful, I will burn out. If I have power, if I'm in my power, I will burn out. Is often an unconscious fear that my women will have, maybe conscious as well. But unconsciously, even if that is something that you're aware of, that will be sabotaging your creation of clarity. So deep down, you will know what your vision is, but all these fears, all these blocks around feminine power and magic can have you feeling like you don't know what your gifts are. So that's why, central to my work, healing the feminine is one thing that absolutely supercharge your capacity to get clarity in the softest, loving, also wild, magical, powerful feminine way. The feminine's power is entirely different. Elizabeth Lovius talked to this about the difference between hard power and soft power in her episode. So if you haven't listened to Elizabeth Lovius, there's a great way. She's distilled that really beautifully around the difference between feminine power being from love, from the heart. So yeah, listen to that one too. And she did, I think, talk about logic and the masculine gifts as well. So she's very much aligned with the way that I teach the feminine. We studied in a similar way. So ultimately, what I'm saying is finding your gifts is actually less about logical thinking into your gifts. You could easily sit there and draft out, well, these are my gifts, X, Y, Z, list them over your lifetime. To a degree that can be serving, but likely if you've done that, you've not hit on your true gifts. I remember when I first started my descent to soul, I heard a quote by Joseph Campbell, which said something along the lines of, if the path ahead is clear, it's probably someone else's. And that really resonates for me. That is so true for me now. I didn't really understand it at the time when I began my descent. So if you're like, I don't really understand, that's also fine. It's something that I've lived into and makes complete sense. If we know the path, it's probably not ours. And that's a truth that often brings up a lot of fear for my women. And I always illuminate shadows, at least at first, in 3 categories when I'm working in my group crucibles. Are you scared of losing 1, control, 2, approval, or 3, security? These are the common 3 ways that shadow will show up. So if your fear is the kind of unknown in discovering your gifts, if you don't know the path ahead and you need to be in the mess of discovering your true, authentic gifts in order to know them, what is the fear that shows up? This is a powerful inquiry. Is it control, approval, or security? Because it will reveal to you the places where your blocks are. And one of the common ones that I'll just speak to in discovering our gifts is control shadow. Because the path of feminine soul is such a non-linear path, people want to know. They want to know X, Y, Z. That's why they're looking for clarity. That's why they long for masculine focus. And this is something that I'm going through as well myself in my current transition. So whilst I've navigated bringing my gifts into the world for a while now and healed so many of the layers that we're talking about, because as I say, you need to heal your wounds in order to serve them as gifts. As my vision is expanding and getting bigger, it's also getting even scarier. So we kind of cycle back with the feminine, we're cycling back into deeper layers of the same wounds. So I'm meeting new edges of the same shadows. So of course I'm hitting up against control shadow. My vision is huge. I'm wanting to know exactly how to communicate my modality clearly. I'm feeling impatient, I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling all the things that my women feel in a new, bigger edge. An edge that I would not have been able to meet a few years ago. It's the edge that's aligned for me now. And I have consciously chosen it that way, which is important to know. So I have chosen to rebirth, to bring my gifts into a wider audience, to have bigger, deeper impact, to be of even wider service to the collective than I was being before. Because that's what's in my heart. And for me now, devotion to that, even though there are all sorts of costs of that, I'd created a thriving business, and there are temporary costs to me pivoting. And yet, sovereignly from my power, I know that what is more important is what is aligned for soul. And soul has made it clear to me that I am here for a bigger purpose, that I am here to bring something new into the world that is this new kind of innovative, revolutionary model for women who are in the same sort of journey, that it's going to be medicine for them. Like, soul has made that clear to me. And although there are all the costs to that pivot, there's literally no other option to me now, because devotion to soul is inevitable. Like, it's literally, there's no other option for me. And that has taken a while to cultivate that. It's taken years to cultivate that. But it really is the only way to creating what it is that we're here for, to be in our gifts in the world. And that I share that because that's scary, that there's no control. And I'm really having to choose to just show up with a lack of clarity, keep taking the aligned action. And I share that because one of the most important and common misconceptions of my women is they feel they have to be perfect. They feel they have to get it right before they start. They feel like they have to have the perfect website. I can tell you now, my website isn't up to date in alignment with the new work that I'm birthing through. And it doesn't matter, because there's a feminine magnetism to what I'm creating. There's people being stirred up by what I am birthing into the world. Like, it's not true of the feminine way of discovering our gifts or getting clarity on what we're birthing, that we have to be perfect. It's actually the opposite. Like, when we show up imperfectly, we learn so much more from the action we've taken, from the women that we've been interacting with that are interested in our work. And again, there's no control. There's only truth, is what I'm trying to say. And there's these interactions, as we step into aligned action imperfectly into the feminine mess, those interactions with people with whom our gifts are medicine for, we learn so much from. And that's where I'm, leaning into deeper and deeper edges of that than what I've already embodied. But ultimately, clarity from the feminine comes from being embodied, from taking action that's aligned with our souls. And the first thing to do, as I've just said, is to devote to living from alignment, because usually that is the thing that my women want. They want a return to authenticity, to truth, to their full expression, to their true soul gifts. And that's usually the first devotion that my women make. It is the devotion that counts. If you have devotion to knowing your gifts, then that is what you will find. And there is a real gem here that I'm going to share with you because, again, I was reading something about this the other day and I was like, yes, this is exactly what I'm here to share. And that is that the women who have the most, what I'd say in inverted commas, success in this path. And success, the reason why it's in inverted commas is success might look like alignment, just as it can also look like all the traditional trappings of success. So that means that, again, as my women come into this path, they're usually looking for success equals alignment, and that's the focus. And then all of the other traditional trappings of success will come. The women who have the most success are those who are committed to their vision, to finding clarity, and to creating thriving businesses from their gifts. And I'll give you an example of how this plays out. So often my women are used to working with affirmations. They've delved into affirmations, manifestation, etc. And in this path, we don't work with affirmations. We work with declarations, incantations, spells, decrees, whatever word you want to call it. These words, essentially like declarations, are essentially true magical technologies. And whilst affirmations are helpful to a degree, like they've got you this far in understanding, declarations are true magical technologies. This path, we're here for real magic. And an affirmation, the distinction between the two is really important here. So that's why I'm going to break it down. An affirmation is merely a wish. It's a wish that you put out there. It's something that you've said has already happened in the way that you're phrasing it. And a wish that you're hoping that the universe is going to provide. So that's instantly forgetting your own power to create as a creatrix. But also the very fact that you've said it's already happened will mean that you're also going to hit up against your blocks. You may not yet believe that this affirmation is possible. And this is why looking at our blocks is really an important part of the work. So an affirmation is a wish. A declaration, on the other hand, is a statement of intent. It's a choice. It's a deeper choosing. And only one of those things, affirmation or declaration, and I think you can guess which one it is you choosing something fully from your heart. And that's choosing to commit to liberating all the blocks that you will come up against in that declaration of intent. That is such a powerful shift and nuance. And I say nuance because a lot of the stuff that I teach is still very much in alignment with woo light. It's just that there's a nuance that takes you into a new depth of that woo light. And that's a great example of one. Like, essentially, you could say we're working with affirmations in this path, but they're not affirmations because we're not wishing. And we're looking at the blocks. And we're definitely working with declarations, which is a statement of intent. It's a statement of intent that says, I declare that this is going to be brought into the world. I declare that I'm going to get clarity on my gifts. And I'm aware that there's going to be blocks in the way of that I am committed to choosing through, choosing into loving so that I can move into my intention. So this is a declaration of intent, and there is a powerful lesson that my coach spent about a year repeating to me over and over again. And she kept sending me a meme, actually, the Yoda meme that says, do or do not, there is no try. And for me, it feels like affirmations are really just us making a wish where we think we'll try and head towards that direction. And what I've seen as I've journeyed deeper is that this is about choosing our direction. It's about choosing to liberate all that comes up in the way of us getting to our gifts, us bringing them into the world, whatever our vision is. The only way to really truly discovering your spiritual or soul gifts, or your legacy, your medicine, is by committing to yourself and your vision over and over and over again. And to keep choosing to focus there. And it is the shadow fear that comes up in the way of that you really want to look at if you really want clarity on your gifts. So that is my invitation to you as a place to start, because if you can't yet see, the invitation at the beginning is also still valid, but if there's a fear that comes up in the way of you actually getting clarity on your gifts, like, that's the place to look. And if you can see, like, don't just stay with the surface fear. Like, what's the fear that comes up around getting clarity on your gifts? What's the deeper fear? Like, and what does that mean? What would that mean? What's the deeper fear? And keep going with that process, like really diving into what is the fear of committing to yourself and your gifts and your vision. What is the deepest fear? And that is the place to begin. That is the place to love yourself, because that's likely part of your childhood wounding that wants the biggest amount of love for you to be able to even choose into getting clarity on your gifts. That is my closing offering to you. So I would love to hear what comes up for you in response to this episode. So please do share. I'm on social media in all the places, whether that be TikTok at Team Secret Witch, Instagram. We've got 2 accounts now, actually. I am Nicole Barton, and also at Archetypal Apothecary. I'm on Facebook, so join us. We also have a Facebook group, so Secret Witch Society. So have a little look at that and join us and let us know what's come up as you've been listening to this episode. I love to hear from my women who are walking the path, so please do share. All of you is welcome in the group, and that's what I always say. And yeah, I'm going to leave it there, but let me know, and sending you all the love. Until next time. That was a brilliant episode, even if I do say so myself. Here are my takeaways. When trying to get clarity on their spiritual gifts, most aspiring feminine leaders tend towards logical, linear lenses and try to think their way into them. This is how we've been conditioned, so it's innocent, and yet the true nature of the feminine is to be in the messiness of the spiral, which will have you discover your authentic gifts. Magical women are all born with a legacy to leave. It is they themselves that are the gifts. And knowing that takes an initiation, because our true gifts are found in our wounds, which means we need to be willing to heal our own wounds if we are to truly have clarity on the gift we were born here to live out. I say born here to live out because our feminine souls chose to come here to live out certain experiences so that we could heal from them and serve the story out as medicine. The law of similars, that is one of the foundational principles of our archetypal apothecary healing modality, explains this. It explores that like cures like, and that if you can cleanly transmit your remedy, it will magnetize and activate healing in those who are similar to you. We have to choose to get clarity, because there will always be blocks that show up in the process. An affirmation is simply a wish that you don't necessarily believe will happen. So, it is a powerful declaration of intent that will have you more deeply choose something from your heart and commit to the journey of liberating all that you come up against on the way to knowing your gifts.
If you'd like to get the show notes and links for everything we've chatted about in this episode, head to www.secretwitch.co.uk. If you know a secret witch who would love this episode, please share with them to help them liberate themselves. And so you don't miss out on next week's episode, head to your podcast app of choice and hit subscribe. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time.